What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch from RespectMyReason.com, back with another episode of the RMR Podcast. Today, I have special guest Cory Azzalino, CEO or COO of Eaze. How you doing today, Cory?
I'm doing great, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you today about delivery at scale, something I think you guys know at least a little bit about.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, quite a bit. But every guest I always kick off with kind of their origin story around cannabis, whether that's personal, professional, both, or whatever you feel vulnerable sharing. There's no holding anyone to the stigma here, and there's acceptance for anyone. So I'm just kind of curious your journey with the plant.
Sure. So I come from a pretty big family. I'm number 4 of 5 kids. My older brother and sister are about 13 and 11 years older than me, respectively. And so I was first introduced just from my family. My family's always consumed. We definitely have parents of the 60s. We were the type of family who would, and still do, smoke a joint before Thanksgiving. We have always kind of openly shared. So that was really the first way that I was introduced to it way back when. And then, probably stopped consuming through kind of college and kind of my early professional career. But, back in 2017, as California was opening up for recreational adult use, hopped back into the business side of it. And about that time also, just in my personal life, also started having kids and things like that, and started needing cannabis for sleep and recovery. I'm also a big kind of fitness buff, so have kind of gotten back, full steam ahead, and basically consume on a daily basis at this point for the kind of wellness and recovery properties. So definitely a huge fan of it from that side of my life at this point in time. And back in 2017, that's when I did get started in the business side. Started with a company called Dime. Was part of the founding team there. We ended up scaling that up to about 450 people, and ultimately Eaze acquired that business. And the business was very similar to Eaze in that we were always focused on delivery and direct to consumer and e-commerce. And that is really what Eaze is all about, and what makes Eaze different and unique. So I've been in the business now for about 4.5 years, since kind of the inception of cannabis legalization. But I'm certainly not the founder of Eaze, but really have been part of the journey as Eaze has become a plant-touching business.
Yeah, and I know, just looking at your LinkedIn and kind of your bio and your previous experience, you've had some experience in like the investment realm, which obviously has quite a bit of relevance to cannabis, because that's obviously what's starting and funding and kind of the backbone of a lot of these businesses. But you also had some experience being a founder of another company, and it seemed to be working in like, if I understood it correctly, I did a brief glance over of Rally Charge. It was like, looked like kind of customer lead acquisition and retention. So via some digital and automated, which obviously looking at a delivery business or being in marketing myself is a big part of, how you grow and scale a business from customer wise. So I'm kind of curious a little bit of the brief backstory of that company as well.
Yeah. So yes, you're right. I did kind of start my my career in very like a buttoned up suit and tie world of kind of accounting and finance. And then, threw on the pseudo tech hoodie, and started a tech business. And yeah, that was all about customer acquisition and lead generation. And actually we had exited that business right around the beginning of 2017. And so as I was looking for the next opportunity, that was really what kind of brought me to cannabis. And because California had these unique rules of, actually allowing delivery, I really felt like that kind of married the experience really, really well, because ultimately with e-commerce, honestly, of cannabis e-commerce specifically, really the name of the game is, can you get customers? Can you reach customers? Can you speak to them and deliver them a good value proposition? And can you figure out ways to reach them at scale? And that's what Eaze had done from its inception. And when we were at Dime, we were always playing catch up, right? Eaze was always kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the California market. Eaze was founded back in 2014. It was very, very early to the medical cannabis delivery game. And they really had the brand that was synonymous with delivery. But at the time, they kind of, as businesses develop, there's what you think is going to happen and then what actually happens. And prior to the actual adult use recreational regulations being rolled out, the business model worked really, really well for Eaze. It was a really traditional marketplace. So they did not touch the plant. They were much, much more like a DoorDash or an Uber Eats, where they had third-party partners who actually had delivery drivers. And they were just they would market out to consumers, and consumers would find eaze.com, the mobile app, the mobile website. They would place an order, but they wouldn't really know what was happening behind the scenes. And behind the scenes at the time, it was getting routed to licensed retailers, but Eaze had no kind of control over that process. We were just a website. And starting back in 2020, we actually decided to move to be a fully plant touching, much more vertical. And the reason we did that is that when the rules were written in 2018, so Eaze had already been around for 4+ years. The big change that happened was when they wrote the regulations, they said the only people who can take payment from a customer is a licensed retailer. Versus before, we were still allowed to facilitate the transactions as a non-licensed just technology company. And that really kind of broke the model, because ultimately all the money went directly to our third-party partners, and we had to rely on them to pay us and to pay the brands. And back in 2018 and 2019, especially in a business that's very, very cash intensive, payments didn't really flow to the brand. So oftentimes people, on the platform or brands on the platform would sell products, and they had a real difficulty collecting from the retailers, and we had no way to enforce the retailer to pay them or to pay Eaze. And so in early 2020, we recognized, okay, we really got to change this. We have to be the license holder, because we have to make sure that we're doing right by the people selling on the platform and on eaze.com, making sure that payments actually flow back to them. And so we made a really, really big pivot in early 2020, where we started buying licenses, and we started to actually be the one who employed the drivers, and curated the menu, and ultimately actually produced products. And so over the last 2.5 years, we've made a very, very big transition to being far more vertical, and also getting out of just California. Eaze was just a California company. Earlier this year, we completed a merger with a company called Green Drago, which was the number 3 retailer in Colorado. And they had 16 retail stores in Colorado. Really, really great, fully vertical. They do everything from cultivation to manufacturing. And they had also acquired a license in Florida. And so we figured that because they were excellent at retail, manufacturing, and cultivation, and Eaze was just really good at delivery and the software, we felt like the two businesses combined really could create something unique, but also complement each other, because it's really hard if you're good at delivery and technology to also be really good at agriculture and production. And we felt like there's no chance we're going to get up to speed on cultivation and kind of best in class techniques. And so let's stick to what we know. Let's find a partner who's good at the things we don't know. And then let's kind of marry the two together.
Yeah, I actually spoke to Alex Levin of Green Drago at MJ BizCon last year, I think, while this was somewhere in the middle of that or coming to the end of that. And that was primarily what he said. It was like, yeah, we wanted to get in delivery, but, we were smart enough to realize that we didn't know what we didn't know, and wanted to partner with someone and align strengths. And I think that's how great partnerships start. Some of the things you touched on there, obviously, like, regulations in this industry are, changing day by day. They change county by county, city by city. It's fragmented within a state. But then when you look in, like what you guys are doing, moving into multiple markets, the regulations can vary super drastically. So what are some of those challenges of scaling or moving from one state to another state in not only a super fragmented market, but kind of ever evolving that are a little bit, more than just even having to kind of switch up the license types and start touching the plant?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does just start with the regulations, but the regulations also feed back into what you have to build from a software perspective. So in order to do delivery compliantly, you have to conform to, as you said, it can be down to the city's regulations. So in California, to use an example, in the city of San Jose, they have more restrictive regulations than basically anywhere else in the state. And so we have to have, additional layers of security, like cameras in each car. And so you really have to kind of conform to the strictest regulations in any given market. And so when we were going into Michigan, for example, we also do delivery in Detroit. They required turn-by-turn directions. They required specific manifesting things. So we had to build software to be able to comply, because that was a higher threshold than was even required in California. We have looked at markets like Massachusetts, where they do technically allow delivery, although it's all through social equity at the moment. But even in Massachusetts, one of the reasons why the social equity community has struggled to actually get delivery off the ground there is that the delivery rules are so restrictive. You have to have two drivers in a car. You have to have body cameras, that it makes it almost impossible for them to launch even remotely profitably. First of all, delivery is really, really hard to make profitable overall. But if you add the complexity of, you have to have now two drivers in the car, it basically makes it so there's no chance you could ever be profitable. And so each state has taken different rules, and rather than just kind of copying and pasting from markets that work, they do put their own restrictions. So we really look at markets and say, okay, how much does the regulations map to California? Because we know we can make the business work in like we did in California. Michigan was very much the same. Colorado is similar. They don't have those really high level restrictions, but it is, once again, through a social equity partner. We're lucky in that, because we started back in 2014 and developed software for 5 years, where we were actually providing it to a third party partner. We don't have any, we're very well suited to say, hey, we can definitely partner with a social equity partner. We actually funded a number through our Momentum program, which is our kind of business accelerator for the social equity community, where we give $50,000 grants to 10 companies throughout the U.S. Each year. So we're like definitely huge advocates of partnering with social equity, with the social equity community in these new markets. But it still means that it might take off slower. So in Denver, you've seen that it really hasn't started delivery, because it's been difficult to get permits. It's been difficult for social equity partners to get the requisite license. And so although there are some small municipalities like Aurora, where we have done a little bit of delivery, it's still very, very early and very, very nascent. And it's still really challenging to get off the ground, because there aren't other compliant software you can just pick off the shelf and start running with day one. And so it takes a lot of time to prepare and make sure that, hey, with all these rules, are we actually following all the rules? Are we making sure our partners are following the rules? Because ultimately, as the license holder, it's kind of our neck on the line. And so, yeah, it just makes it even more difficult, especially because oftentimes retailers in the market view it as if you're going to somehow take their customers. Although from our experience in California, the delivery customer is quite a bit different than the retail customer. And so we feel like it's just additive of giving customers and patients better access, which is kind of core to our mission.
Absolutely. That's what you look at delivery is super impactful for, right now you got a lot of people working at home, you got kids at home. It's a little bit more difficult to pull up to the dispensary with kids in the back, and leaving them out there. No shame to them, because I know people already do that regularly at other businesses, but for some reason, there's a weird stigma around weed shops for the general public when that happens. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are fragmented in this space. And I didn't even think of that from like a software perspective of like, what's the dominant POS system? What's the traceability system? Do those already interact and engage with your guys' platform?
Yeah, and it even gets more complicated in that sometimes, like, you set up Metric in California, but the way that Metric works in Michigan isn't the same. And so you have to rewrite software just to make it work in the new state. So not all these systems, they're a little archaic, and so they don't work quite as well as you would kind of hope, as if they were developed, in 2022. So yeah, it's complicated just to follow the rules and regulations, especially once you get beyond the, you're doing 5 or 10 deliveries a day. In California, we're doing more than 3,000 deliveries every day. And, that gets, complicated. It's a lot of employees. It's a lot of employee regulations too. We have to make sure, we're OSHA compliant. We have to make sure that we're complying with all wage and hour laws, right? These are our employees. They're not, because of cannabis regulations, it's not like a gig economy job. It's not 1099. And so we have to make sure that our employees are properly taking breaks and, following all of the local rules as well. So that's something that's also makes it even more complicated to move into new markets.
And not to stay on the theme of complications, but at 3,000 deliveries a day and the sheer geographic and population size of California, it is a challenge. I'm assuming it's a challenge to have accurate like stock of products and choose the right vendors, being that most people are unable to produce at a scale, right? There's very few brands that can produce at a scale that can service the entire state of California, right? I live in the state of Washington. So many of the average, and it's a smaller state, the regulations I know leave for smaller canopy space, but this average size of your grow can only feed X amount of retail outlets, right? And so, and I know California, there's bigger companies and bigger facilities, but I'm kind of curious if you can speak on kind of the buying and the brand partnerships and what you guys look for there with being able to have something that you can stock and offer to a wide variety of customers on a consistent basis.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It definitely means that we have to typically work with kind of the larger end of the scale. For most of our brands, we are the number one customer for them. Certainly not all of them, but for most of them we are. And yeah, we have a huge geographic spread, right? Like Northern California and Southern California are, 100, 300 miles apart, which is, bigger than most states, and you'd cover 3 or 4 states if you're on the East Coast. So the California supply chain has developed a little bit differently. We do, I know you guys had Mike on from Herbal not too long ago. So we do have that kind of middle tier of distributors, and most of the brands either self-distribute or work with a distributor that helps move product between all of our locations. We are actually moving to a more centralized distribution model ourselves. Historically, we have 14 locations throughout the state of California. Historically, we've had product delivered to all 14 locations. In order to actually work with some smaller brands who, so we can do our own allocation amongst the 14 locations, we are moving to a place where we will buy basically once a month, all to our central location, and then handle the distribution out to our locations, which makes it easier at the retail level, because there's also, in California and many other markets, there's stickering requirements where you have to literally, sticker every single product, which is a very manual process, and it's better done by a single centralized team rather than doing it in 14 different locations. So it's definitely, once again, complicated, but we try and pick definitely a few brand partners and brand houses that we can work with and try and leverage them, because it's just creates that more consistent supply. Over the last 2 years, one of our big initiatives has been to increase the overall size of our menu. In theory, e-commerce, the benefit of e-commerce is like Amazon. You can have the endless aisle. You can have thousands of products. We've kind of found our sweet spot around 750 SKUs. And so that's kind of the target that we try and hit at every single one of our locations. Because of the way cannabis licensing works, we do oftentimes have kind of smaller footprint warehouses. In California, there is a concept of a non-storefront license. And so of our 14 locations, 12 are delivery only kind of warehouses. But those warehouses range in square footage from 1,000 square feet to like 4,000 on the high end. When you're in 1,000 square foot footprint, you are really, really space constrained. And so you have to sometimes lower the number of SKUs you carry and only carry the 500. And of those are really focused on our top categories, which are naturally flower. We sell a lot of bulk flower. We were definitely early in seeing the transition to quarters and halves and full ounces. So we sell a lot of bulk flower. We over-index on edibles and vapes. And we actually don't sell a lot of concentrates. I think that's one of the product sets that people do like to go in and look and smell and see live in a dispensary. So we definitely skew a bit more to convenience products than your typical dispensary. So, we have to curate our menu a little bit differently, but we do, because our nature as a tech company, we have a ton of data. We're able to look, at daily reports on what's selling, and really get a good sense of how to curate the menu by region as well, because products that sell in Northern California are different than what's selling in Southern California. And even amongst those regions, LA is different than San Diego,
Right.
which is different than Orange County.
Right. You look at the economic differences from area to area, the cultural differences, the occupational differences, right, which will definitely skew what type of products people move towards or consumption habits. And so I was curious about that as the trends that you see. So it's nice. I mean, I'm a big flower guy, so it's nice to know that flower reigns supreme no matter how we're getting it. It makes sense that maybe you'd order in bulk if you're ordering delivery. And so another thing I was going to ask about trend wise was, are you guys seeing, right, like in cannabis, there's like these two things, right, that we notice, from at least myself, from being a long time, connoisseur, whatever, smoker, is that you kind of have your staples that you always want to go to, but there's always this forever ending or never ending search for like the new. What is something new? What's the new flavors? Who's doing a different take on a strain I like? Do you guys notice through delivery trends, like, does it seem to be a lot of reorders of kind of the same brands and the same products, or are customers kind of venturing out and trying more when they interact with e-commerce first going into a dispensary?
I think that answer varies by category. So I think the most, not surprising, the most CPG like loyalty is found in things like edibles. Mm-hmm. So I think you see a lot more trial in flower. I think vapes, people generally tend towards the same brands. Maybe they try different flavor profiles, but typically it's more of a price driven mechanic on vapes. Or we also sell a lot of like Stizzy and have a lot of the proprietary platforms that do really well. But in flower, it's a lot of trial. So you definitely have to keep your flower menu fresh, because people, I still think the connoisseur will still go into a dispensary. So there might be a tinge more brand loyalty on an e-commerce menu, because you can't actually look and see and smell. But overall, I would say that in the flower category, people still like to try and dabble. And you see brands that are the hype brands, and then they kind of fade away. And it's interesting because, even brands you'd think have massive staying power, don't necessarily sell as well as we would have thought on our platform. So a lot of times we are trying it, and then we just watch the numbers and see if it moves through. And some of the brands you would think would sell like hotcakes no matter where they are, because they do have a really loyal following, don't always sell when you're selling maybe quite as massive a product. I think Eaze in California at least is definitely probably doesn't necessarily just feed the connoisseurs. We have a lot of very, very, very loyal customers who buy very frequently, but we also have a lot of people who are just kind of in and out of cannabis, who maybe buy every 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and those people probably tend a little bit more to the convenience products and are a little bit less definitely don't buy as much to dabble as much in the flower game.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm also curious, from your previous position, to be able to speak on like the customer acquisition, right? Like, it's no secret, anyone in cannabis, like the challenges of marketing, are clearly there. There's a lot of people complaining, whether it's regulation or just kind of platform terms of service. I personally kind of relish in the fact that like a lot of those toolkits that are available in other industries aren't available here. It like forces you to be creative. And so like, I'm just the type of guy, I like that anyways. I like to kind of think out of the box, but I know a lot of people, it's a big challenge. And we look at a company as big as Eaze, like a lot of the advertising and marketing opportunities out there are kind of that top funnel brand awareness, which are a big upfront cost with like a hard to gauge ROI and a longer tail to get to the ROI. So I'm just kind of curious your perspective of coming from more like traditional internet marketing, e-com, and then the challenges in this space.
Yeah, I'm nodding my head emphatically because we've done almost 9 million deliveries. We have over 2 million account signups. We have like 1.1 million registered users who have actually ordered product. Right, so we have a huge user base. And we got a lot of that user base because of top of the funnel brand marketing, right? Eaze was very early in out of home advertising. That's one of the reasons why the brand is, well known outside of just California, is because we plastered billboards everywhere throughout California. And obviously a lot of people come here for travel and for recreation. You could see them all throughout the country, or all throughout the state. And yeah, that was great for top of funnel. It's great for awareness. But, as a very, as a product that can definitely find an audience, we would love to be able to advertise on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter, and YouTube, right? Like more direct response advertising would be one of the reasons why I'm long-term bullish on the opportunity. But coupled with all the other complexities of cannabis, the fact that we can't even advertise and we can't use the fact that we have all these registered users and it's a unique product, and that people are also uploading an ID with their purchase. So you have even more information. We have their email, phone number, ID, home address, we know their age. We know everything about them that is on an ID. And yet we can't really target, we can't really advertise directly, to those customers via social channels. And so we can do some affiliate marketing. We can definitely we lean really heavily on SEO, and there's ways to do AdWords, but all that's, even more complicated than just, going on and buying like you normally would. So, we are lucky in that we started back in 2014. And so we've got, many, many years of history. But we also were able to spend those dollars when the cannabis market maybe had a little bit more hype and there was a little bit more funding coming into the space. And now we've kind of pulled back dramatically. We are not currently running out of home in California. As we're launching new markets in Florida, we have a very big push under the Green Dragon brand in Florida. We're going to open more than 25 stores there this year. You have to adapt your strategy. And we have digital ad vendors. We have a lot of the pipes in place, but we don't have nearly as many options, and we can't chase where are we actually seeing the best ROI, where are we actually measuring. A lot of it is more kind of finger in the air attribution surveys and things like that are give us a decent glimpse of where we're getting our customers and where we're getting awareness from, but certainly are not nearly as targeted. And so when I look at the 5-year timeline, in a post legalization world, if and when New York and New Jersey, which both allow delivery and pretty good frameworks, if we could actually use all the stuff we learned in California and apply it to those markets to reach new customers, that would be wonderful. But if not, it's kind of a knife fight using a lot of more old school techniques, everything from brand ambassadors and feet on the street to at home, and then just trying to leverage referral programs. That's definitely what helped us scale in Michigan, is just friends telling friends. It's still the preferred way to get cannabis. It's always been the way to get cannabis, is somebody delivering it to you, whether that was in a backpack or in a licensed, fully licensed manner. So
yeah, I mean that's how I cut a lot of my teeth, man, through some word of mouth marketing back in the day. That's interesting though, that you guys have a database of like 2 million customers. So like the type of lookalike audiences you could build with that, the type of personas that you already have, which you're completely unable to leverage.
I wish. It is marketing gold. It really is marketing gold, and we can't use it yet. So that's part of the really frustrating thing is it does force you to be really creative. We have a massive email channel. We have a massive SMS channel. Because of the delivery, because of the fact that our employees are our employees, we do crazy things like we measure, our intraday demand, because when you schedule somebody for an 8-hour shift and you're expecting a certain level of demand, if you're not there, then you're basically just paying for, customer, or you're paying for your employees to just kind of sit around and not be as utilized as you want them to be. And so we have, automatic SMS programs that run and drop credits in people's accounts to make sure that we're, getting buying throughout the day, to make sure that, our supply and demand are matched. So we have to do relatively sophisticated things. In part, just flipping all the way back to because we can't just freely advertise. We have to really nurture our customer base in a super strong way. But like I said, in the longer term, that's what makes me really, really bullish and about the e-commerce opportunity in this category. And also, I think people, getting back to the DoorDash example, one of the first things people ask is, can you actually do delivery profitable in basically any industry? And I always like to kind of point more towards Domino's Pizza, because that's really where I think we are. I think we're going much more to a Domino's Pizza, where we own a lot of the supply chain in Colorado because we're vertical, right? We're basically making our dough in our marinara. And same thing in Florida. Florida does have delivery rules. Florida's even more extreme on, you can only sell what you produce. And, I think that we're currently setting up our retail network first, and then we will lean very heavily into delivery once that retail network is up and running. And once our supply catches up with, the demand that we expect out of those stores. But yeah, it's a very delicate balance in every market of, matching the actual supply and demand.
Yeah, I like that. I'm modeling more off of Domino's than DoorDash. I also, aside from cannabis, I worked at Pizza Hut delivery back in the day, which also coincided as a great occupation to do while selling cannabis as well.
Very true.
You're able to get paid, have some stuff to file with the government, and make plenty of extra cash on the side. Man, it was they worked really well together. Where do you see the future of cannabis delivery over these next? I know you said you're really bullish on the next 5 years, looking at potential federal legalization, tipping, and some regulatory changes. But where do you view kind of the future of cannabis delivery and where it fits into the market?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like I don't ever think cannabis delivery is going to be as big as retail. Retail will always be bigger. I think cannabis delivery, like delivery and food and everything else, will probably be 15 to 25% of every market. But I also don't think that, because of the way cannabis regulations stack up, there are cities and municipalities that just straight up ban brick and mortar retail. So it is a must-have for patients and consumers who want access. And so I always think that they'll actually be rather complementary to each other. That's just the way that, because this is being done on such a local level, that's just the way that this is likely to play out. And so I think the one thing that we were really hopeful is that, especially as regulators are writing regulations, that they realize that, this is, a really safe way to get products and give access to consumers. And it's obviously, something that consumers want. It just like food delivery, it's just easier. It's easy, it's safe. You have a big selection. There will always, like I said, there will always be reason to go into a dispensary. The drawback of delivery is you can't look and smell and really get eyes on the product before you buy it. But I think that, over time, delivery will continue to be 20 to 25%. Because of how expensive delivery is, I really, fortunately or unfortunately, I think that there's going to be a few winners in delivery just because it's so technically complex. Retail is hard. It's retail plus a last mile logistics business, which is even harder. And so I think that, ultimately, as these markets open up, there will probably be one big winner per state, and there will probably be a big winner nationally. Just because of the cost it takes to stand up. It's very easy to get started, but it's very expensive to scale. And so that's why there's, the weird kind of in between of, like, it sounds like it's really easy to start, and it is. It's just really, really expensive to get to any degree of scale profitably because of all the regulations. So super bullish on it. Definitely know that consumers want it. They want it as part of their shopping mix, but it's not going to be the only thing. It's just going to be, probably 20 to 25% of overall sales.
I love that, man. There's a lot of people in this industry that are overly bullish on whatever position they're at. And I like that, where you're like correlating this to other industries and kind of like, this is the lane that I think we're holding. So I think that's a great perspective. And Cory, I really appreciate you hopping on here on the early morning on a Friday and bringing this chat. Is there anything else you'd like to, promote or push out there pertaining to Eaze?
No, I would just say, Green Dragon, we've got 16 stores all throughout Colorado. We've got 30 plus coming in Florida. And I think we're, known for, and we'll continue to be known for, high quality weed at a good price. We're definitely very cost focused. But also, as we bring the delivery brand, Eaze will maintain the delivery brand and really be what that's synonymous with. We'll definitely be looking to bring kind of best in class selection. Like I said, typically 750 plus products, delivered to your door. So that's what Eaze is all about.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. For people out there that want to get some more information, eaze.com is the website, place an order. I know we already have some comments from people on here that seem to be regular customers. So again, man, I really, really appreciate your time sharing the insight. I know I learned a lot, and I always appreciate these conversations with people that know their shit. So thank you very much, man.
Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate it.
All right, this is the RMR Podcast. We're going to be back today. I got 3 episodes in a single day, so we got more content coming today. We are on the North American Weed Tour, and we will be talking to cannabis operators, executives, movers, and shakers in the industry all across the country over the next couple months. So